I welcome everyone to our Wheel and Anchor webinar this morning. Topic is our LiveAway program on the Amalfi Coast, happening at the end of September of next year. And a short greeting from all of our members who joined me this past month in France. And so just a quick picture with a lot of happy faces. This is our group that was with me on the Canal du Midi in Carcassonne. And yeah, so just for those of you who are new to Wheel and Anchor, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an insight into what we're all about and how our community is different. We are all about bringing travelers together. So what does that mean? You see a few shots here from some of our groups over the last year or so. Those of you who are new to us, or maybe you remember when you joined, you got our Traveler's Creed, which are sort of like our guiding principles. And I think I've gotten so many emails in the last weeks from people for whom that resonates with. It's about, who we are as travelers, as visitors in these countries and these different cultures around the world, and how we act and how we behave and how we like to look at things and learn things and experience things. And I think most of us will agree the way that we do that as predominantly Canadians. Our group is pretty much almost, I won't say exclusively, because we do have some friends from some other countries that visit and come along sometimes, but we have a very sort of soft way of exploring the world. We ask a lot of questions, and again, we share some great experiences, and that's what makes us special. And particularly people who join our Wheel and Anchor trips are a little bit of a different breed. And we have people who are new to traveling, who haven't done a lot of traveling before, and we also have people who are super well traveled. Either way, I think that there's a certain mindset that we all share, and that's one thing that is again what makes Wheel and Anchor special. And I have a personal mission that everybody in our community becomes well-traveled beyond just checking the box, beyond just saying, oh, I've been there, but you can really say that you've taken something away, and that that feeling when you've traveled to a place before and you've spent enough time to have made a connection with somebody there, and then you open the newspaper and you read an article, or you open the news app more appropriately, and you read an article about that place, and you can instantly relate to it because you'll remember the place or the person or the experience or that thing that you ate, and your connection to it is different. So that's what we mean when we say well-traveled and well-connected. Joining me on the webinar today is, well, first of all, I'm Gordon. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor, and I know many of you. And in the background is my colleagues Joel and Paula. And live online with us is Barb, one of our senior trip specialists. Hi, Barb. And Barb's on mute, but that's okay. Yeah, so that's the team that's on our webinar today, and we are going to show you some images and tell you a little bit about what this experience of a LiveAway on the Amalfi Coast in southern Italy is all about. And so this is, of course, where we're going in September. Just a quick word about our LiveAways. We set up these programs, and the feedback that we've gotten so far, we've done a bunch of them in the spring of this year, and just now we had a LiveAway program in Tuscany in Italy in October, is that we spend more time, 2 to 4 weeks in one spot, because it enables us to sort of unpack our suitcase, to take time to just sit in a cafe and people watch. We offer a bunch of different excursions that you can choose from, and I'm going to talk about those in a second. But the other interesting point about our LiveAways is that we're designing them to be able to be combined, so that you can spend 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. You can go away for basically the whole winter if you like to, and that enables you to I think what we found, particularly in this post-pandemic era, is that, if you're going to embark on a long trip across the Atlantic or across the world to one of our LiveAways in Southeast Asia, you might as well, if you're going to make the investment of the time and the hassle to get there with the airlines and all the challenges, is spend more time and take it all in and go at a slower pace. So for our LiveAways this coming winter, spring, you can combine Amalfi. This program happens in April. We have a 1-2-week program in April and this one in October, which you can combine together with Sicily. You can combine it with our Aeolian Island program, which is actually between Sicily and the Amalfi Coast. That's a group of volcanic islands that are in the Mediterranean, in between, as I say, Sicily and Naples. And so there's lots of ways that you can enjoy our LiveAways, and we're going to be doing more of the combinations at the end of next year and beyond. So without further ado, let's get right on to the topic at hand, which is the Amalfi Coast program. Again, the dates are September 23rd to the October the 7th of next year. Our program, looking at the map, is all based in Sorrento. So Sorrento is on a little peninsula. If you look at the inset map, you can see we're in the lower part of Italy, just above the toe of the boot, if you will. And the closest airport to that is Naples. So if you're coming in for this program, you would fly in and out of Naples Airport, usually connecting through a place like Frankfurt or Munich or Amsterdam. There's lots of different connections to get there. We bring you down to Sorrento, which is what I would call a perfect size city, adjacent to the Amalfi Coast. So Sorrento is actually on the Bay of Naples. You look out across the bay, you can see Naples on the other side. And there are tons of things to do in Sorrento itself and in the immediate area. But most importantly, it's a great gateway because from here you can travel to the towns of the Amalfi Coast by either bus or train. You can take the ferry, sorry, not train, by bus or boat, I should say. You can take the ferry across to Capri. You can take the hydrofoil to Naples. You can, we have the excursions to Pompeii and Herculaneum that I'll talk about in a second. So there's also Ischia that we don't even offer as an excursion. You could do so many things in 2 weeks. You could really spend a month in this area. And that's kind of why I like Sorrento as a base point. One point I'm going to make, because we've had a couple of people ask, well, why don't we stay right on the Amalfi Coast? Well, first of all, the timing of this program, we run this in the spring and in the fall, which is at the sort of the beginning of the season and towards the end of the season, because in the main part of the season, which is basically from June, July, August through September, this area is an absolute zoo. And so in the shoulder season, it's still busy. I mean, the Amalfi Coast is popular, through much of the year. But there are so many tourists and it's so busy. But the towns of Amalfi and Positano themselves, while they are quite charming and they're beautiful, and we'll visit them on these different excursions, there isn't a lot to do in them. There's restaurants and there's a bunch of very touristy shops and so on and so forth. But beyond that, you have to go somewhere else. And traveling around the Amalfi Coast is a little bit trickier, whereas from Sorrento, you can access everything and all the other places there are to go much easier. So that's why Sorrento is the perfect gateway, in my opinion, for visiting the Amalfi Coast. So we're going to spend 2 weeks there, and I'll share with you after I talk about some of the excursions and activities about where we're staying, the accommodations that we have. But as I say, there's all kinds of options that we have. So Mount Vesuvius, of course, one of 3 active volcanoes in Italy. And in fact, if you do all of our LiveAway programs, if you do the one in Sicily, we'll actually see or go to all 3 of those active volcanoes. Vesuvius, of course, being famous because of the massive eruption that buried Pompeii and Herculaneum back in 79 AD. Since then, it's been somewhat dormant. Sometimes it shows that it's still alive, but the whole history and so on around Mount Vesuvius and the eruption and the impact that it's had even in modern times is really quite fascinating. And so a visit to Mount Vesuvius we typically combine with Pompeii. And so again, we've picked excursions, we've designed them to appeal to different kinds of people. So if you are somebody that's really into history and wants to sort of delve into what the civilizations were like at the time when these cities were buried. So this is again around the time of the era of the birth of Jesus Christ. Pompeii, both cities, Pompeii and Herculaneum, so that's the next one I'm coming to, were buried by the massive eruption of Mount Vesuvius. But Pompeii was more lightly covered, but the effect of the explosion meant that a lot of the buildings were just destroyed, like you see here in the picture. And so it is the more famous of the two sites, and it is very interesting to visit, but you get sort of an overview of what happened in Pompeii, and that's why we combine it with a visit to Vesuvius. It's a full day trip that we spend out. For those that really want to understand what ancient life was like, Herculaneum was buried under 25 meters of ash. So it was completely covered, and it wasn't even excavated into until about a century later. But as a result, the buildings, the skeletons of the people that were victims of this terrible disaster back then, much more is intact in Herculaneum, and you can spend, it's a smaller area to cover, but the degree of preservation is much, much higher. So it's sort of something for both. You could do one, you could do either, but really incredible places to visit, to get probably the best glimpse into what life was like, because of the state of preservation of these buildings. Beyond just the volcano and all the havoc that caused, obviously today there's a lot of things that the region is famous for, lemons and limoncello being one of them. So we have a family lemon grove that we go and visit, and you know, lemons are everywhere there. They're like literally practically littering the streets, and so you can't really visit without having a taste of limoncello. And not only we'll get to taste it, but we'll actually learn how to make it. And what you'll find is it's actually not that difficult. There's a lot of heart and soul and sort of family traditions that go into, you know, the right way to do it. But you could make it at home. I don't know about you, but I love limoncello. So that's one of the excursions that we'll do. I'm going to talk about hikes and walks for a second, because you know, we have some of our members who are very, very active and love to do hiking and walking, and this has got to be one of the most scenic places to do it. I mean, I think all over Italy you can do some great hikes and walks, but the views that you get, you can see here, for example, the town of Amalfi, which is one of the towns along the Amalfi Coast, but the hiking trails up above and the views out over the Mediterranean, out to Capri, and just this coastline are absolutely incredible. And so we will have at least one organized hike with a local guide. The Path of the Gods is the one that we'll do, which starts in Positano, and it's a downhill hike that goes for a few kilometers, so not super challenging. But again, if hiking is something that appeals to you, or you know, doing longer walks in amazing scenery to see all these towns and all this great landscape, you know, we can help you. Our host can help you. Our local guides can help you to facilitate going on these walks yourself. And again, you can take a bus or a boat to various points along the coast, and do these different walks. So there's really something available for everyone. And again, the important thing I want to emphasize about our LiveAways is that we have our excursions, we design them to be to appeal to our members, but I also encourage you, go out and check things out on your own, particularly when it comes to hiking and walking along the Amalfi Coast. We're also going to head over to Naples. We're actually going to take the hydrofoil across the bay. So it's sometimes half the fun is getting there. So it's a beautiful trip across the Bay of Naples. We'll pull in at the main harbor. Naples has quite a reputation from the past as being a bit of a rough and tumble kind of a city, but it is really gentrifying. And so there are some incredible monuments. So we'll spend a couple of hours taking in Naples as a city. But no doubt the highlight will be learning how to make Neapolitan pizza. There is a special art. I mean, of course, we all know Italian pizza and how it differs from sort of the North American way of making pizza. So we'll actually learn about what Neapolitan pizza margherita, we've all seen it on the menu, is the classic. And although, you know, different families have different recipes, there is a way to do it that differs from, you know, the kind of way that we make pizza at home. So that'll be kind of fun. There are, as I say, different ways to experience the Amalfi Coast, and one way will be by a private minivan transfer, where we'll go and stop at a few of the towns, and the other way will be by boat. And it really depends on how much walking you want to do, because of course all these towns are perched up on the side of a mountain. So when I was last there, I did the trip on a minivan, and so generally where the van can stop and let guests off is sort of partway up the mountain, which means to get down to experience it all, you have to walk down to sort of the harbor and then all the way back up. So there's quite a bit of steps and walking involved. Otherwise, if you want the more lazy way to do it, if you will, you get off, you go by on the boat tour. And they'll let you off right at the bottom of town, and you can experience all the cafes and get a beautiful view of the coastline from there. So we'll do both, by visiting by van as well as by boat, and of course, to behold the coastline from the boat is incredible. But honestly, the car ride as well is just. It's just incredible. It's just one of the most scenic roads, I think, not just in Italy, but anywhere. Beyond, of course, pizza, there's more to the Italian kitchen than just that. But Sorrento and the whole region of Campania have their own special dishes that they're famous for. So we're going to do a cooking class where we'll go through, antipasto, primi piatti. We'll make the different courses in the classic Italian kitchen in a large family-run establishment that we've secured for this, and you'll get a chance to learn. I mean, who doesn't love Italian food, right? But to be able to learn the secrets that go into some of the recipes that they have in this region is quite exciting. Of course, next to lemons, olives are a major product in the region. And so once again, we have yet another family that have an olive grove not too far away from Sorrento. So we'll go up there, see how olive oil is produced in Italy. It's produced in a similar method in other places as well. But of course, Italians are fiercely proud of their organic olive oil and the different flavors they add. And particularly, I love the truffle olive oil. So we'll get to go and see what that's all about. And, you can't not probably take a few bottles along with you to enjoy back home. I know a lot of this sounds like it's about food, but how can you visit Italy without doing food? And of course, visiting as well, Paestum and the buffalo farm is part of that. The Greek temples here are 2,400 years old. So again, you think, strange, what are Greek temples doing in Italy? But of course, prior to the Roman era, the Greeks were the ones who settled this area, and the Doric columns that you'll find at Paestum are said to be some of the best preserved in the world. So again, you get to see a part of history that predates the Roman era, and you see some incredible temples here. In the same day, we're also going to visit a buffalo farm where the obviously famous buffalo mozzarella is produced, and that is a specialty in and of itself. So seeing the buffalo mozzarella, the unique production approach that goes into that, being able to taste it, and you'll get a new appreciation for it. Because I know that a lot of Canadians, how we think about mozzarella cheese and what they consider to be mozzarella cheese, your whole perspective will be shifted by visiting one of the farms here on our trip. Again, we are really offering more and more to our active members. So the coastline of Sorrento in and of itself is quite beautiful. So we're going to offer a trip by kayak, a half-day excursion. And the city as well is largely perched up on the side of a cliff, so it's really amazing to be able to go along the coastline, and you're away from all the busyness of town itself. And just whenever I get the chance to do a kayaking adventure, I certainly seize it. So that's yet another way to do it. So there are even more excursions that we haven't mentioned. We didn't mention the island of Capri, where you definitely have to visit when we're there, and so many other things that are available. And so we have a list that goes out separate document from our program itinerary for those that are interested that will spell out the different excursions and activities that we're going to be doing while we're there. Staying in Sorrento, as I mentioned, we're very lucky here to be able to have secured an apartment hotel. So it's basically, and I visited this place when I was last there earlier this year. It's an entire floor of a building, which is about a 10-12 minute walk from the main square of Sorrento. So it's very well located, and they're all very generously sized apartments. So when you're staying in one place for a prolonged period of time, it's really nice to be able to enjoy apartment style living. So classic, very clean line Italian style places. They all have a full kitchen and a little dining area and a living room, as well as bedrooms, and each with an ensuite bathroom, of course. So very, very comfortable style of accommodation that we have, and perfect for a longer stay. We also have a new hotel, which is also about 10 minutes walk from the center of Sorrento, albeit on the other side of Sorrento. It's been really quite interesting because this area is so popular that even a year in advance, it's not easy to find space. But we managed to secure some apartments as well as hotel rooms. This is ideal if you're a solo traveler, because the cost is a little bit more palatable for those that want to have their own sort of accommodation. Very comfortable hotel that has a bit of an Italian flair, and as I say, it's all about location. So let me just give you some information. First of all, the most important thing that we have are the pricing, which is not here, as you'll see. However, it is in the program itinerary that we are going to give you with this, the replay of this webinar. So you can look for the detailed pricing. The prices have gone up a little bit since the spring by roughly 10%. We are in this game of chasing inflation around and trying to get everybody, all of our partners over there, to nail down the prices. It's really, I must say, it's a huge challenge. So for the pricing, we will have it in the program itinerary. So look to that, again, which is going to be released with the replay of this this webinar in the next 24 to 36 hours. You'll have it. In any case, our LiveAway programs, of course, include the accommodation in either the apartments or in the hotel. Most importantly about these trips is the activity credit, which allows you to choose the excursions that you want. Of course, if you want to do all of them, it costs a little bit more. But of course, you don't have to do all of them. You can do even fewer than that, and then even decide locally, subject to availability, if you want to participate in this, that, or the other excursion. But the point is that for the package price, if you will, that we give you, you can enjoy a really amazing 2 weeks trip on the Amalfi Coast. We also put in a welcome dinner. We have included in the excursions, we have lunches pretty much on all of them. And again, we go to great pains to making sure that we have very, very special places chosen. So for anybody that's been on one of our trips before, we do pride ourselves on having great food. Of course, as with all of our programs, the airfare, we do it separately. So that gives you the ability to choose how and when you want to fly, particularly if you are adding on other components to your itinerary in Europe. What we find is a lot of our members, in fact, the majority, either come early or go on and stay longer to do other things in Europe. And we definitely support that. We recommend it. You might as well get as much as you can. And of course, in insurance as well. And finally, airfare. At the moment, airfare is pretty steady. You can probably budget, if you're coming from the east, in and around $1,000, $1,200 to get there. From the west, obviously a little bit more. The whole air industry is still in a little bit of turmoil following the pandemic. We hope things are going to get smoothed out within the next 6 to 12 months. But anyway, that remains to be seen. For those of you who book onto this program before the middle of December of this year, we are granting an additional $200 of activity credit. So you'll get a total of $1,200. And that's if you book early. So it is this is a really, really popular part of the world. And so for us to get and hang on to our allotments at our accommodations, it takes quite a bit of effort. So the earlier you plan ahead, the better it is for all of us. That's why we grant a couple of $100 of extra activity credit. So if you have some questions, get them ready. Barb's going to come online and let me know what member questions have come in. But of course, if you think of something later, or if you'd rather talk to either Barb or Paula, you can obviously drop an email, let us know, and we will answer all your questions. So Barb, what questions do we have?
Yeah, somebody's asking what sort of fitness level is sort of recommended for a trip like this.
Sorry, I just realized I had my headphones plugged in. That's why I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, somebody's asking about what sort of fitness level is sort of recommended on this type of trip.
For this, for most of our trips, we, and we're going to be coming out with a guideline on for that applies to all of our trips. You need to be in pretty good shape. You need to be able to walk. You can't really enjoy these old cities and these beautiful hilltop, towns on the side of the coast without being able to, walk up and down stairs. And so we say as a general rule that, you should be able to walk a kilometer without needing assistance within about sort of 12, 13 minutes. That's, I think, what would be sort of acceptable. You should be able to walk your 10,000 steps a day as health experts recommend. I think that if you, have that level of ability, you'll have no trouble on this trip. And of course, a lot of our members are a lot more active than that, and that enables you to undertake even more. So
can you give an idea of the range of prices for the excursions that are offered in the travel credits therefore?
Sure. So excursions range from, ones that are fairly short, close by in Sorrento, like I didn't mention our gelato making class. So we have a family-owned gelateria that we go to where we can do that. So that, that range from sort of $30, $50 up to our half-day trips, which are sort of in around the $100 to $120 kind of thing, Canadian. Of course, everything we do is in Canadian dollars. And then if it's a full day trip with lunch and the guide and the transportation out, if we're going out to Naples or to Vesuvius and Pompeii, you're looking at more like sort of the $160 to $200. That's roughly speaking where our excursions come in. And we have a list of excursions certainly for our spring program that we can send out to you, and the fall one, we're just waiting on a few details on that. So we'll get it out very soon.
Okay. And somebody is asking, can they just do 2 weeks or do they need to do all 4 weeks?
So for this program in the fall is you can now book just the 2 weeks in Amalfi. So previously our LiveAways did have a 4-week requirement, but starting from the fall, you can do 2 weeks only. We've again altered our arrangements with our partners over there, specifically the accommodations, to enable us to be able to offer it on a 2-week basis. So I'm happy about that.
Okay. I think that's the main questions that have come in. So if anybody else has questions, they can email or call in to Paula and I.
Okay, great. Yeah. So if you do have any other questions, please let us know. I know one other thing I was going to preempt was, of course, I didn't mention about the weather. People want to know what's the weather at this time of the year. Well, this October is probably a bit of a misnomer, but this is how difficult it is to predict what weather is going to be like with all the changing climate patterns. But this October, the weather in this part of Italy was in the high 20s. So it's not typically that warm. I would say you would expect temperatures in the low 20s during the day and maybe going down into the teens at night. So the weather really is quite pleasant. In fact, you can still swim in the Mediterranean at this time of the year. I was in the south of France up until yesterday, and I went swimming, and I thought the water was glorious. It must have been about 70 degrees. So yeah, it's perfect time to go.
There is one other question that just came in, which we sometimes get, is of the excursions you've talked about, how much is covered with that travel credit?
Well, you can apply the travel credit however you like. So,
Mhm.
you know, if you take, for example, 5 full day trips, then that would eat up sort of the $1,000. But if you did 3 full day trips and some shorter trips, then you know you'd get more out of that. So the point is you can apply it however that you want. And we have some members that want to do everything, in which case, you know, you just pay the difference. And we have other members who want to have a more relaxed trip and do more things on their own, in which case we'll give you the money back. So that's how it works.
There's more questions coming in. So the range of the group size in terms of how many people we would take on this
So
LiveAway?
can range in size from sort of 10 to they could be 30 or 40 people. The point is that how we run the LiveAways is that the experience of all of the sightseeing and all of the things that we do in groups is generally sort of 10 to 12 people. Some cases it's 8. For example, when we do our Amalfi Coast by van, we actually take a maximum of 7 because we prefer to take the smaller vans because it's a much more comfortable and a more intimate experience with the guide. If we go on a boat trip, we might take 12. But the point is that it's generally oriented around small groups. We do our excursions, our sightseeing in smaller groups so that you get the benefit of a more intimate experience. That's how we work.
Okay, and one other thing is somebody's asking about the ratio between sort of couples and solo travelers.
Yeah, good question. So we probably have about, I would say on average, we have 1/4 to 1/3 of our groups are solo travelers. And so when I say solo, that means some people that book their own rooms. So they like to have a single room, and there is a supplement for that because of course the rooms are the hotel's always charged by room and not by person. Some people, we have sharing rooms. So we have our Companions for the Road program where you can find a suitable travel partner through an anonymous questionnaire that we do. But yeah, we have quite a lot of solo travelers in Wheel and Anchor.
Okay, I think that's covered most of them. So yes, if anybody else has questions, they can call us or email myself or Paula.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. If you didn't get your question answered today, I think I see another question about weather in spring. Obviously this one here that we're talking about today is the fall, but the weather in the spring is similar. Generally, the 2 times of the year are quite similar. In April, you can get daytime highs that are in the sort of low 20s, sometimes even a little bit warmer. And in the evening, it's a little bit cooler. So yeah, good. Good. And good. If there are any questions, as Barb says, please do drop us a note, give us a call. That's what Paula and Barb are there for, to make sure you get all your questions answered. And and I know that now that we said there's lots more questions coming in, drop us an email and we're happy to chat with you about all that. Just before you go, talking about future LiveAways. So you will have seen if you didn't already, our planning calendar for 2024, because we know that a lot of our members are planning ahead, and with travel being in this state of really chaos in the moment, chaos in the sense that, we have programs that we've had to cancel because we didn't book, we didn't have members booking in time, and the hotels got sold out. I'm going to be talking to that in this week's newsletter, that, it really is, planning in advance is important. And so we have some new destinations coming up in 2024. I'm off to research Corsica and Sardinia, 2 other great islands in the Mediterranean, over the next couple of weeks. So we're going to be offering those as LiveAways. And the idea is that we want to enable this idea that you can combine one destination with another to make a longer holiday. So I think that's quite a unique feature that we have at Wheel and Anchor. And yeah, lots of exciting stuff coming up. Next week, our webinar is about Greece. This is our island hopping program. where we don't take a traditional cruise boat and spend 4 hours in each place, but rather we take time on 4 different and very, very interesting Greek islands. 2 of them you will have heard of, and 2 of them you probably haven't heard of. So that fits into our vision of going a little bit off the beaten track. That webinar this time next week at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We will, and I saw the question come in, always our webinars are recorded and will be sent out to everybody who signed up. So if you are thinking about joining one of our webinars, don't worry, sign up. If you miss it, you will always automatically be sent the recording together with a copy of the program itinerary. We want to make it as easy as possible for you. And again, if we don't cover something in the webinar, drop us a note. We will get back to you. Thank you for your time today. I got through this in a relatively timely way, so I appreciate everybody tuning in. I hope you will join us to the Amalfi Coast. It is truly an amazing destination, and we look forward to seeing you again on an upcoming webinar and hopefully on a trip before too long. Thanks, Barb. Everybody, have yourselves a wonderful day.